Have you ever gotten a lap dance from the female species? No? Didn't think so. Well, I did, and it did not happen the way I thought it would. But before I elaborate, you need to sit your crusty ass down on that twin-sized bunk bed with patterned sheets, grab yourself a delicious 200 million calorie Belgian beluga whale snack that you picked up from Bungus Bay, clean your disgusting wax-infested ear holes, and listen the fuck up, because I'm about to tell you the most awkward but hilarious story about my first ever strip club experience. It all started on a random Friday evening while I was picking up sticks at my job. I was in the middle of dropping a massive pile of twigs into the back of my golf cart when I got a ring from a buddy of mine, who we'll call Jesse. Jesse let me in on a little nefarious plan that he created with a couple extra buddies that included going to a decently rated little strip club that wasn't too far from our abodes. He said they planned on chilling at Gilbert's, which is another important figure's house, for a little bit before heading out. I told him I'd head over once I get off work and that I was gonna look the club up first before making a decision. So once I hung up, I quickly googled this club, and the first thing that popped up was a shooting that occurred in the parking lot 3 months prior. So I was instantly hesitant. To get a second opinion on if I should go, I rung my father, because who else would you call before you visit an adult club? I'd also like to mention that this story took place not even 2 months after my 18th birthday, so I wasn't exactly accustomed to being an adult yet. I talked to my dad for a couple of minutes and eventually made my decision. He had heard of the club before and figured it'd be my group's best bet, due to it not being a far drive and mostly having good reviews. So after I clocked out of work, I headed to my father's house to take my bi-monthly shower a month early. That way the strippers didn't have to smell my taint stench. And after practically drowning myself in my father's cologne, I took the quick drive to Gilbert's house. There, I united with Gilbert himself, along with Jesse and our other friend, Pimp Biscuit, but I'm just gonna call him Biscuit for short. We yapped for a little bit about how much money everyone was bringing, when Biscuit said he was taking along $300. We were befuddled at this information, because who the fuck is about to waste $300 on some non-intimate dry humping? Gilbert ended up bringing 100 buckaroos, while Jesse and I brought a respectable 50 doll hairs each. My plan was to simply pay the entry fee, get $10 in ones, and save 20 for a lap dance later. After everyone was ready to start making our way to the club, we had to face another problem. Whose car were we going to take? You see, the club was roughly 45 minutes away from Gilbert's house, and I had just drove 20 minutes from work, followed up with another 5 minutes to Gilbert's. So we weren't about to take my car. Jesse got dropped off by his mom, so we didn't have his car, and Gilbert straight up just didn't have his license yet, so there was only one option left. Biscuit. But there was one problem with taking Biscuit's car. Actually, there were multiple problems. The biggest being that Biscuit wasn't comfortable driving on the freeway, and literally everyone else besides me had slim to no driving experience. So that left me as the designated driver. And that wouldn't be that big of a deal if Biscuit's car wasn't a complete pile of hookah. This man's car was on its last fucking life. The second this thing hits 60 miles an hour, it starts feeling like a Boeing 747 post entering the second tower. It wasn't exactly the smoothest ride, but hey, at least it drove. So with that, we started making our way to the club. We were all talking about our different tastes in women, and we're just generally describing what we were hoping to see. In hindsight, however, we probably should have took the area of the club into account before we set our expectations too high. Once we got to the parking lot, we were starting to feel a bit uncomfortable, because this club was on the corner of a 4-lane intersection with a parking lot that looked straight out of town from Black Ops 2 Zombies, and the building's exterior was not very well kept. But we didn't just risk our lives traversing this highway in Biscuit's honky mobile for no reason. We were about to take the honky mobile and honk some goddamn honkers. But first we had to pay. And that's what's wrong with modern society. Why can't we go back to the good old days when men used to live to 40 and it was normal to beat your wife? Anyways, we enter the building and were immediately faced with what looked to be a Russian mafia member with head tattoos asking us for IDs. Biscuit, Gilbert, and I all complied and then paid the entry fee, granting us access to the club. But before we could enter, Jesse started visibly stressing out. This motherfucker forgot his wallet at his house. Not Gilbert's house, his own house, knowing damn well we were about to be clubbing tonight. But we couldn't do anything but laugh at him, because he was already stressed out. And since Jesse also wasn't comfortable driving on the freeway, I agreed to drive him back to his house, because I'm just a chill, nice guy like that. The bouncer agreed to let me into the club without having to repay once I returned. So Jesse and I started making out. While we were making the drive back to his house, we couldn't help but theorize what Gilbert was feeling without us there. You see, Gilbert's a pretty awkward fella, so we figured he would be hella nervous without our company. I mean, he he had Biscuit, but out of the three of us, he was definitely less close to Biscuit. But once Jesse grabbed his ID, I fast and furious my way back to the club. I had managed to get back to the club in just over an hour, and once Jesse paid, we finally got to enter the club for the first time. Immediately, we were flagged down by Biscuit and Gilbert, who were calmly sitting at a table close to the main stage. Surprisingly, there weren't many people in there. There was an old guy sitting at the bar talking to a couple girls, along with another small group of guys chilling on the other side of the stage. There was a dancer busting some moves on the pool, but we weren't really interested quite yet. After about 30 minutes, we had seen 4 different dancers that had all had something in common. They were all black. And don't get me wrong, dark-skinned women are hot as fuck, but we just weren't expecting every single dancer to be black. So after looking through the club's Facebook photos, we quickly realized that this was in fact a black girl majority club. But that wasn't a problem. A few minutes go by and we all start getting comfortable in this new environment. That is until a new girl walks up to the stage. Now this girl isn't what you would typically expect when you think of a stripper. To put it nicely, she was a bit plus sized. Like Lizzo plus sized. We were a bit worried she would collapse the stage if she were to slip on accident. Biscuit, on the other hand, was in absolute awe. This man's chops were practically on the floor in straight euphoria. Get it? He was very interested in what he was seeing, so he instantly called dibs. And we didn't contest him. That was his meal, so long as she didn't eat him first. Biscuit swiftly makes his way to the side of the stage and starts casually throwing ones at the lovely lady. And she starts to bark back. She starts getting all sexy and begins seducing Biscuit with her smegma. At one point, she sticks her chocolate starfish right in his face and tells him to put a 1 right between her extra large thong and her extra large anus. And he complies. And he probably had a cum prize too. After a few minutes of Biscuit pitching money at this woman, her time on the stage comes to an end. But instead of heading to the back room, she walks all sexily over to our table and sits a good 3 inches away from Biscuit. We were prepared to become uncomfortable quite fast, but nah, she was actually pretty chill. Instead of talking all freaky deaky, she was talking about life and all of her hobbies and shit. Her and Biscuit actually seemed to have genuine chemistry, but once she brought up her Instagram, I knew what she was doing. She was trying to get my boy Biscuit to become a simp. And it worked. This man instantly went to go get a lap dance from Lizzo, and the 3 of us were left to dwindle. After another 25 minutes of different girls entering the stage, Gilbert just said fuck it, and he went up to the stage and started throwing money at this one skinny woman. He was up there for a good 15 seconds until he ran out of ones, and then just kinda stood next to the stage waiting for her to exit. Once she did, he asked her for a dance, and they were off to the back rooms. Jesse and I were left alone, contemplating our choices. None of the girls that had came out so far necessarily piqued our interest. That is, until one specific lady made her way onto the stage. She was a tall, dark-skinned mamacita with long purple-dyed braids. Not only was she blessed with the looks, she was blessed with the books, as in cheeks. Her ass looked like a squirrel with a full face of nuts. Them bitches were an eyeful, so I made my move. I walked my happy ass up to the stage and started playing around. Once she made a turn on the pool and was facing me, I let her know that I had 10 whole doll hairs with her name on it. I tossed the first dollar bill at her, landing on her boot. After that absolute Kobe of a shot, she became so unbelievably sodded that she walked over to me and started doing some crazy shit. She made me place bills on her ass cheeks, in between her titties, on her thong piece, and at one point let me place one right over her crevasse. After I ran out of cash, she said, "So we getting a dance then?" in a seductive ass tone, and I then spoke the 2 most hard-hitting words in history. Allahu Akbar. I mean, hell yeah. So I went to go take a seat next to Jesse and patiently waited for her to get off the stage. Jesse was a bit nervous about being alone, so I told him to pick the next girl no matter what. That way he isn't just sitting there all awkwardly solo. Once the girl got off of the stage, I approached her and instantly felt like a 10-year-old. This woman was towering over me. You see, I'm 5'9", so it's not like I'm a goddamn midget. This woman was just a fucking titan with titanium titties. She asked me if I was ready for the dance in a heavy Jamaican accent, to which I agreed. We made our way over to the private booths where a large man was waiting next to the door. I handed him 20 smackaroos, to which he then plopped into a money checker to make sure it wasn't counterfeit. But these guys clearly don't know who I am. I was half tempted to admit I was in fact a famous YouTuber with over 250 subscribers, which is what I had at the time, but I withheld. After confirming the dough was in fact legit, the girl grabbed my hand and led me into this abyss of a hallway. I immediately got molested by the stench of sweat and skin, but I wasn't about to let that ruin the moment. About halfway down the hallway, she pointed me into a private booth, where I respectfully sat down. A few seconds later, she opened the curtains and started growing ever so closer. If I felt like a midget before, I now feel like a fetus. She grabbed me by the shoulders and started rubbing her clothed gooch against my gooch. The only thing in my vision was titties, but there was one problem. I didn't know if I was allowed to touch them or not. I mean, I could ask, but what if she said no? Then I would just feel like a loser. So I just kept my hands on my knees and enjoyed the ride. literally. After a minute or two of fabric rubbing against my semi-chub dongle, I think she began to notice my honker hesitation, because she grabbed my hands and whispered into my ear, "It's okay to touch," as she placed my baby hands onto her melons. I was feeling up those nips same way I feel up the boys, passionately. I was in the zone now, locked in if you will. But that didn't last long, because only a couple minutes later she hopped off and that was the end of the dance. That shit only lasted about 5 minutes, which equates to $4 a minute. I felt slightly scammed, but I still had a memorable experience. After that, I returned to the table where Jesse and Gilbert were sitting. I asked where the fuck Biscuit was, to which they said he hadn't come out yet. That man must have been getting a happy ending or something. Gilbert had a devious little grin on his face. He was feeling himself. Jesse, on the other hand, still hadn't gotten a dance. About 20 minutes go by and Jesse finally spots his perfect girl. Gilbert and I instantly start urging him to go ask her for a dance, but he said he had to wait. The girl was currently talking to a large group of men on the other side of the club, and Jesse didn't want to awkwardly barge in and ask for a dance. Understandable. But after the girl left that group and started talking to another girl, he still wouldn't budge. He was adamant in waiting for the perfect opportunity. But before that opportunity arose, Biscuit finally came out of the booth. His face was red as hell, and his pants were very moist in a particular area. At first we thought he nutted himself and we all started cackling, but he quickly explained that wasn't what it was, and instead Lizzo kept convincing him to pay another $20. In return, she would lick his jeans in the Johnson area. This was some truly freaky shit. She was literally drooling on this man's jeans. This is a new evolution of edging. I'm gonna call it redging, cause after an edge like that you involuntarily start cosplaying as a tomato. After Lizzo got out of the booth, Gilbert immediately went and asked her for a dance, to which she said she would, but he has to give her a minute. Gilbert was adamant on obtaining the same experience as Biscuit. A few minutes later, Gilbert and Lizzo enter the Shadow Realm, not to be seen for another hour. Not long after Gilbert leaves, Jesse's girl finally reaches his comfort zone. So after some hype from Biscuit and I, Jesse walks over and asks for a dance, which is granted. I didn't end up getting a dance with anyone else that night, mostly because I didn't feel like using the club's ATM to get more dollar bills. So I just chatted with Biscuit for a bit about our experience so far. He was telling me some crazy details about how she was licking in his ears and shit, and how she was moaning all up on him whilst riding him. It was some wild shit, I'll spare you the details. After about 10 minutes of chatting, Jesse comes back to the table. We asked him how it was, to which he replied, "Fucking awesome." He had just enough money left to get another dance, so he went and picked a different girl and was right back in the action. Gilbert eventually came back out while Jesse was still occupied, and he was acting like he just snorted a line of Basuco. He was saying the same vile shit that Biscuit described, where she was licking all up on his junk and ears and shit. Hell, the way they were describing that, I started to get uncomfortable. I don't know why the fuck they were speaking so highly of that shit. After Jesse returned to the table, we all decided to call it a night. Biscuit had spent nearly $500 on that one Lizzo-like stripper alone, but hey, at least he got her Instagram. Gilbert ended up spending roughly $300, while Jesse and I only spent what we originally brought. All in all, it was a memorable night, and thank God we weren't old enough to consume alcohol, cause I fear the two retards who spent hundreds would have turned those hundreds into thousands. But that's pretty much it. After the club, I drove the gang back to Gilbert's house, all the while dealing with a stench of drying saliva and sweaty men. It was a great night. There was just one thing I wish we did different. I wish we would have chosen an all-male club. And that was the time a stripper forced me to touch her honkers. I hope y'all enjoyed listening to me yap about sexual innuendos for 10 minutes straight, and allow me to give you youngins some advice. If you ever go to a club, only spend what you originally brought. The girls there don't actually give a fuck about you, so don't be a biscuit. Be a Noxylicious. Alright, maybe don't be that either.